Angel. My old nickname rings through my ears, turning my stomach to lead. I'm uncomfortable, aware of Gray beside me, knowing he would have heard what Nikki said, and I'm dread to wonder what he's thinking right now. Fortunately, I don't have time to linger on it, or to look at Gray's reaction before Nikki is speaking again. We were ambushed, he says between short gaps, struggling to catch his breath. His lip is busted and the front of his shirt has a hole torn in the front of it. The Riversiders threatened the owner of the bar. They were waiting for us when we arrived, Nikki explains. Those bastards. Sarah hisses over the noise surrounding us, her eyes fierce. Glancing up and down the street at the sheer number of Riversiders, I swallow around the lump forming in my throat. I can only imagine the kind of welcome that was waiting for them. When my eyes meet Nicky's again, I see nothing on his face but desperation and defeat. And I know what he's about to say before the words have even left his mouth. We've got to take our territory back, Angel. We can't just let them take it. I let out a low growl and kick at a broken bottle on the ground, just a fraction of the damage of our rivals have done to our territory. This time I don't falter, not like before. It's one thing to listen to Nikki telling me about the trouble the Riversiders have caused, but seeing it firsthand strokes an old flame within me. Let's put an end to this. I clench my hands into fists at my side, giving Nikki a sharp nod. His expression changes, knowing that this time I'll be standing beside him, and a glimmer of hope sparks in his eyes. Without looking back at the others, I follow my old friend into the street, and we launch ourselves headfirst into the fight. The place is in total chaos, and the academy is on the losing side of the battle. Ah! I cry out suddenly, avoiding the bottle hurling through the air. The object smashes on the sidewalk beside me. When I sweep the area, searching for the source of the bottle, I'm met with a girl who's glaring at me for a few paces away. A Riversider who looks a few years younger than I am. Looking for a fight, huh? She boasts. She comes at me first, and I only manage to dodge her right hook at the last second. The edge of her fist grazing my chin. I launch back at her with a swift kick that knocks her to the ground. A guy comes to her aid within seconds. He's holding the broken leg from a bar stool in both of his needy hands. You'll wish you hadn't done that, the man says with menacing grin, looking as though he's having the time of his life. We'll see about that, I shoot back at him. I glare between him and the makeshift weapon distastefully. I guess we're not just little kids anymore who only use their fists. I bring my guard up to protect myself right before the two Riversiders launch themselves at me. Then I duck abruptly, right as the guy barrels straight into my crouching body and loses his balance, falling head over heels and splintering his weapon on the pavement when he goes down in a tangle of limbs. In a split second, I'm on my feet, blocking against the woman's attack. I misjudged my positioning slightly, and her punch clips me across the jaw, making my head heal. She's definitely stronger than I anticipated, and I know now that another punch like that could knock me out cold. I have to be careful. I'll be no use to anyone if she manages to take me down. The one advantage I have on my side is speed, so that's exactly what I'm going to use. Is that all you've got? I taunt her, hoping her anger will make her sloppy. It works like a charm, and when she attacks me next, I can see she's losing her form. I meet her head on, and I'm surprised at first to find I haven't completely forgotten my old boxing training. My muscles, while stiffer than they were, still remembered the old routines. But the woman is just as good, and while I haven't fought anyone in a long time, she seems to be in her prime. I'm almost at the end of my rope, panting and out of breath when I see my lucky break. For just a moment, she leaves her abdomen unguarded, and that's where I strike. Oh! Landing a solid punch to her gut has her sneezing and doubling over in pain. From there, it takes only a well-placed punch to the nose and she's on the ground, blood spurting between her fingers as she cups her face and howls in pain. A loud groan from beside me catches my attention, and I turn to find Gray hurling away the same man I put down before, the one who had somehow managed to stumble to his feet and had been advancing on me. Broken chair leg raised above his head. Gray throws him to the ground with ease, knocking him out cold. Then he steps back and claps his hands together, dusting himself off. A few meters away, Jet has another Riversider landing flat on his back in the dirt, while Sarah fights against another beside him. I gape at the three of them for a moment, so surprised at seeing them join the fight that I almost forget everything that's going on around me. Are we doing this or what? Gray winks at me before jumping back into the fight. Adrenaline flows through me so thickly I don't have time to think. I block out everything else, focusing only on my rivals in front of me. They'll be sorry they ever came here. I'll make sure of that. Punching and kicking our way through the fold. At first it seems to make little difference against the numbers the Riversiders have here tonight. As a unit, we carve a path through them faster and harder until their numbers begin to dwindle, the stragglers eventually beginning to run off with their tails between their legs. And it feels good to be doing this again. I glance over at Sarah, her eyes wild and her lips curved upwards, and I can tell she feels good too. Gray and Judd are forces to be reckoned with, two unmovable walls of stone, cold, fury fighting their way through the throng beside us. I can't take my eyes off Gray, marveling at the way his muscles stretch and contract, at the laughter that escapes him when he sends another opponent sprawling to the ground. Angel, look out! Nikki shouts right as the wind is knocked out of me and I'm sent flying through the air. I barely have time to cry out as a brutish looking man knocks me to the ground, catching me completely off guard. He must be at least twice my size, and his weight causes me to fall backwards, his shoulders colliding with my face as I land on the pavement, feeling my skin grate against the asphalt. A stream of warmth trickles from my nose, and when it reaches my lips, tasting like metal on my tongue, I know I'm bleeding. In an instant, he pulled off me, thrown aside by Gray, who descends upon him with bloody knuckles and a scowl sharp enough to kill. He's not laughing anymore, and I see now why people were so terrified of him back in high school. Are you okay? Sarah kneels beside me and touches a hand to my shoulder, her eyes wide with worry. I try to nod, but my face aches so fiercely that all I can manage is a wince of pain. While Gray is busy finishing off his opponent, I chance a glance around, finding the Riversiders are all either passed out in the street or have already run off, leaving the Academy gang behind to lick their wounds. Then suddenly, sirens blare in the background, sending everyone scattering into the night. A small part of me shudders at the sound. We have to get out of here now, Sarah yells to the rest of us. Grace surges forward and helps me to my feet before we sprint away from the scene. With my hand in his, we follow Sarah as she leads the way, our footsteps thundering over the pavement and the sirens giving way to the relentless pounding of my heart in my ears. We skid around a corner and then another until eventually, instead of concrete, my shoes are sinking into soft green grass. When we finally stop, catching our breath beneath the cover of dark trees, I realize where we are. We're in a park, the same park we were in the night that Gray was arrested, all those years ago. I look at him now, at the sweat dripping from his face. Once upon a time, I thought he was my biggest rival, and now it seems it's the complete opposite. Not a rival, not an ally, a friend, and maybe something more. You're bleeding, he says after a moment, handing me a small tissue. Does it look bad? I ask him, letting him step closer and stem the flow of blood. I don't think it's broken, but you'll probably be left with a pretty nasty bruise, he says matter-of-factly. Put your hand here, he instructs, guiding my hand over the tissue before removing his own. Pinch down on your nose, it'll help. Alright, Dr. Jansen, I try to smile, but the pain turns it into more of a grimace. I'm no stranger to this kind of injury, trust me, he adds with a smirk. Cupping the back of my head with his hand. He tilts it forward slightly in an effort to stop the flow of blood. I pout quietly to myself. What are my customers going to think when they come into the store and see me with a bruised face? Don't worry, Grace says, quieter this time. Bruised or not, you'll still look beautiful. His comment catches me off guard, and when we lock eyes, neither of us says a thing. That was insane, Jet is saying in the background, letting out a small, disbelieving laugh. Just like old days, Nicky comments solemnly, his gaze on me and Gray. I can't tell what he's thinking exactly, but from the look in his eyes, I'd say he's starting to piece a few things together. My stomach flutters nervously when I think that he might not be the only one. We should get somewhere safe, Grace says as soon as my bleeding nose is finally under control. We don't know who might still be hanging around. He does a quick assessment of everyone's injuries, and it seems that despite the severity of the fight, we've all gotten off pretty lightly. My place is close by, let's go there, I say, earning a collective nod from the others. Under the cover of darkness, we head off into the night. I invite everyone up my home, where we all slump down on a sofa and the floor, anywhere we can catch our breath. What happens now? Sarah asks after we've had a few minutes to collect ourselves. Do you think the Riversiders will retaliate? Most likely, Nicky says grimly, grabbing a cushion from the sofa and hugging it against himself. So at least their numbers will be dwindled after tonight. He looks at Gray and Jet, each of them in turns, as though seeing two men in a new light. I don't think many of them will be up to facing you lot again, he says. Nicky looks towards Gray again, his eyebrows dipping. I thought I'd seen you before, but I couldn't recall where. Now I remember, you're the Phantom. The one and only. Gray smirks, but the smile doesn't quite meet his eyes. His gaze meets mine, and I look away quickly, purposely avoiding it. I'm afraid of what I might find there if I look too long. He knows who I am. There's no doubt about it. The confusing part is, why doesn't he seem more surprised about it? I should get going, Nicky says as he pushes himself to his feet, setting the cushion aside. There's more to do before the night ends. I'll walk you out, I say quickly, joining him at the door. We descend the stairs together in silence, speaking only when we're sure we won't be overheard. Did you know that Gray was the Phantom this whole time? Nicky asks, his voice hushed. I nod softly, tracking my bottom lip between my teeth anxiously. And does he know who you are? He does now, I say gloomily, my eyes trailing the floor. Hey, Nicky says with a small smile, and I look at him again. It's a strange situation, but the couple haven't given us any trouble since back in school, and from what I've seen, Gray seems like a good guy. He is. It's just, I just don't know what to do. This is all such a mess, I say weakly. You should do whatever makes you happy, he says kindly before his face falls. I'm sorry for dragging you back into all of this, but I didn't feel like I had any other choice, he adds. It's okay, I didn't realize how bad things I didn't realize how bad things had gotten, I admit, knowing that the truth is that I didn't want to know. Maybe the couple will be on our side now, huh? Nikki attempts a small smile. Maybe, I say, giving him a hug at the door. Stay safe out there, Nikki. You too. We'll talk soon, yeah? I nod, wishing him a good night and watching him disappear into the alley and turn onto the street. It's only then that I turn to the sound of footsteps on the stairs, seeing Jed and Sarah enter the hallway. We're going to take off too. I'm exhausted, Sarah says, stepping forward to pull me into a hug. You're welcome to stay here if you want, I mumble against her shoulder, knowing that part of me is dreading what's coming, and especially having to face it alone. Thanks for the offer, but I think there's a few things we need to talk about, Jet says, giving Sarah a meaningful look as she releases me. And it seems like you need to have a conversation of your own, Sarah adds, brushing past me with a grimace. I sigh in defeat. One that's way overdue. Time to hear Gray tell me how much he hates me. I very much doubt that. Worry what? Sarah teases softly, nodding her head towards the stairs. Talk to him. Judd glances towards the ceiling before turning and giving me a half smile. Good luck, he says, following Sarah through the door where they both disappear into the night. I lock the door behind them, taking a moment to steel my nerves and prepare myself for the conversation to come. Then, after taking in a deep breath to steady myself, I head back upstairs. When I reach the living room, I find Gray standing with his head back to me. I hesitate, unsure of how to start this conversation. It seems, however, that I don't have to. Angel, Gray says quietly, turning to fixing me with those sharp eyes of his. Now that it's just the two of us alone, I can feel a shift in the air. The decision of whether to tell him or not has been taken from me. Now it's time to deal with the fallout. I'm sorry I didn't tell you earlier, I saw slowly, stepping forward into the room. So am I, Gray says coolly. The disappointment that crosses his face is so immense that I feel the unbidden tears prickle at the back of my eyes. I was afraid of this, I admit, afraid that it would change things between us, and I didn't want that to happen. What did you think would happen? You just continue lying to me and everything would turn out fine? Gray snaps, his temper getting the better of him. I know you're smarter than that. You knew this would happen eventually. You knew you couldn't keep secrets. You knew you couldn't keep your secrets forever, he says. I told you I needed more time. What else was I supposed to do? I ask helplessly. Talk to me, Gray lashes out in frustration before reeling himself back in just as fast, the muscles in his jaw featuring as he pins me with a crushing stare. I would have listened. I watch him shakily, my tongue sitting uselessly in my mouth as a full range of emotions wash over him. He runs his hand over his face and sighs, and now I see just how exhausted he looks by all of this. I've known for a while now, Hazel, he says softly, and I falter, my eyes going wide. You knew? I manage to gasp, my chest seizing uncomfortably. He nods, circling the sofa and taking a seat. Leaning his arms on legs, he sits forward, his gaze piercing. How long? I demand in a whisper. He hesitates, and a feeling of dread comes over me. Since the day the box arrived from your parents, he confesses. I saw the old photos of you and Sarah. Why didn't you tell me? Because I was waiting until you trusted me enough to confide in me. I throw my hands up in the air. You knew I wanted to. I didn't tell you I was keeping secrets because I was proud of it, Gray. I was really struggling, and to think you knew all this time. I wanted it to come from you. I was hoping you'd have enough faith in us, in me. I don't know what to say. I know I screwed up, unable to upfront this entire time. I kept avoiding it for so long, way longer than I should have. I let fear get the best of me. Is that why you kept asking me if I trusted you? He nods, short and sharp. I admit, I didn't trust you at first. I confess. My former rival, the Phantom. I remember your reputation. I was trying to get away from all of that. We're adults now, Hazel. What did you think was going to happen? I don't know. I had no idea what kind of person you grew up to be, not at first. I didn't want to tell you I was the reason you got kicked out of school, and then eventually my reasons for being reluctant to tell you morphed. I became terrified of losing you, I sigh. It didn't help that some things about you concern me, like how you and even our friends. We're not friends, he cuts me off. Even is good for business, Gray says slowly, carefully. Business? I draw the word out. At the look of guilt on Gray's face, something clicks. What is it you really do in the basement? I ask him. He takes a couple of steps towards me, with his hands out in front of me, looking torn. Is that really important at the moment? He says flatly. It's all connected, I say. I let you use the basement because I felt guilty for what I did, I admit. Guilty, but not enough to tell the truth, right? He rounds on me. his tone sharp. If I hadn't found out that day, I don't believe you would ever I don't believe you would ever told me that you were secretly my biggest rival in high school, he growls. That's not true, I protest. He stops and fixes me with a hard stare, his jaws clenching tight. I trusted you despite knowing who you are. Uh, despite knowing who you were. All I wanted was for you to be honest with me. Something about those words shatter me inside. He's right, completely right. Shame and anger washed over me, making my eyes swell up. But this is no time to feel sorry for myself. I was wrong to not tell you. I'm ashamed of what I did, who I was, and I didn't mean for things to get this far. What a mess. I let out a heavy breath and leans back against the wall, unsure of how to feel. That is it, I agree. How to get out of this mess, how to even begin to mend this relationship. Let's start being honest, Gray, I say. When he looks up, I fix him with a firm stare. He knows the truth about me, and now it's time I learned the truth about him, the whole truth. I need to know what you're doing in my basement, I state. His jaw clenches tight, but after a few moments he relents with a nod of his head. Fine, let me show you.